Hi, Jason Spangler, the SanteeSwapper, back with another unboxing. Now, every once in a while, I will go and visit people in order to pick up collections. In fact, it just so happens I'm going to the Atlanta area on Friday to look at a couple of collections in Georgia. But that's definitely the exception, not the rule. What you're going to see today is sometimes I will get, even today, 3 boxes in the mail from a family, which is a pretty heavy. It costs quite a bit to ship, but being with the cost of gas or air travel, it's still better for me to buy the collection and help pay for some of the shipping to get these items and recycle them versus going and getting them. So this will be an interesting unboxing. Again, 3 boxes. I'll cut them open and try to show you what's in there, and then we'll dive in and take a hard look at everything. Again, the goal here is to try to share the history and let you see a little bit of this scouting memorabilia. Okay, so this is what 55 pounds of scouting memorabilia looks like. There's a lot of patches in here, but also a lot of books. And for that reason, I typically try to say to families, maybe you can donate the books locally because generally they don't, they weigh so much. And usually for Scout handbooks, they printed hundreds of thousands of copies every time that they did a run. But sometimes it just works out where the family will ship you the whole item, or maybe even some of the books are really old and they're definitely worth paying for the freight. So 55 pounds. Whoa. I guess what I'll do is try to tackle these boxes maybe one at a time and try to show you some close-ups when I can separate the items out. But this is going to be fun. Stay tuned. Okay, I tried to go through the 3 boxes and pull out some things that I thought would be interesting to show you. I don't think I'm going to be able, with this small desk that I have, to show you everything that was in the boxes, but I can tell you some of the things that I've left off camera that I don't think would bother you too much. There was some Scout fiction, some Tom Slade books, kind of that famous character from the days in the teens and 20s where there was a lot of Scout fiction written about scouts like Tom Slade going out and like catching bank robbers and all kinds of good fun stuff. There was also some belts and leather belts and such like that. Some uniform parts and pieces that weren't anything special. A couple of things I grabbed that really don't have a whole lot of value, but I thought it was interesting to show you because it also teaches me a lesson is these boxes here, it's labeled official neckerchief, supply division. And on the little label right here, it says 1 dozen bicentennial neckerchiefs. And if I pull this off and show you, this starts to make sense for me as someone who is a collector that buys lots of really small collections from around the country. I can tell you that I have probably had 200 of these neckerchiefs pass through my hands over the last 5-10 years that I've really been heavily doing this. And I was born in 1973, so in 1976 I wasn't around to see this neckerchief. But my point being with this box is, now I get it. Now I know that they made so many of this bicentennial neckerchief that in the end, scouters were buying them literally by the box. And just in this one collection, it looks like there's going to be upwards of 3 dozen of these neckerchiefs. This box may not be full. All of the same neckerchief, all of them in the original bags. And so it's like, okay, well, that starts to explain why I get so many of these in collections, because they just made so many. And probably at the end, they really just jettisoned them and sold them super cheap. Now, there is something super historic, as in like, I could literally send this to the National Scout Museum in Philmont and they would take my call and they would want to hold on to this that's in this collection. And as I remember, this collection has been in my warehouse for a while, and I had it sitting there with the 3 boxes, and I had this note that I really had to film a proper unboxing for this collection. But honestly, I'd let it sit in the corner for so long that I'd kind of forgotten what the hidden jewel was in all those boxes. But in opening them up just now, I was like, oh my gosh, exactly, that's it. It's like, this light bulb come off, like, yeah, exactly. Now I remember why I had that stuff sitting there for so long, because there was something so historically important that I really, really wanted to get it on video. And so I will show you that under the camera and let you get a really close-up view of it. But before then, just again to go through, this is something I also do not get very often in collections, is just literally a giant mound of stamps. And not simply Boy Scout stamps, which I do sometimes get sprinkled into collections, but this is literally somebody who was a die-hard stamp collector. And you can see just this bag here, this bag here, this bag here, this bag here. I mean, just stamps after stamps. And what also is interesting is almost all of these were ones where, you know, the stamps were used and they were just cut off of boxes. So somebody who literally, like those cardboard boxes under here, and they cut that off so they could save all the stamps. Now, I'm not a stamp collector. I don't know, you know, what version of stamp collecting that would be, where you know, you don't really have them in an album, but you just have this thing of like, oh, these are valuable, I'm gonna keep them all. So anyways, there is a little bit of research here. There's a book titled Discovering the Fun of First Day Covers. This is a 1980 edition, so that might be a little bit of what's going on with this stamp obsession. So let me put the stamps down because we do have some more scouting memorabilia to take a look at. All right, so one of the things that I didn't pull up, but I have a few loose pieces, there was a bunch of little baggies like this. I mean, like 25, 30, 40 little baggies like this that maybe have 10 patches in them, and they're almost all event patches, which in these unboxings, you've heard me talk about event patches, you know, camporees, Klondike derbies, all those very, very local events, council camporees. And so those are ones I don't think it's going to be possible for me to show all of them, but it's a cool thing for me as a collector because then I get to open these and go through them and sort them out and try to kind of make sense of them. There is a pretty significant stack of neckerchiefs, which I also love to get in collections. One thing that I sort of describe to people is I try to collect things that were worn on a uniform, and I definitely include neckerchiefs in that. And so here, like for example, there's a Philmont Expedition for Philadelphia, and so this would be a cool piece for someone from that area to rehome. Here's a I've seen this before. I think this is from a certain camp, 1964 being the 20th anniversary. And then this one right here, the St. Lawrence Council Spring. This looks, again, local type event patch. But then there's some other stuff like this guy, which is a 1959 World Scout Jamboree. This is the official neckerchief. Now, a lot of these were made, so this is not necessarily a rare item, but it is cool that it's a 59. And this was held in the Philippines, you know, other side of the world. Literally, for me, it's about like a 12 or 11-hour time difference. So I don't know how many American scouts went to the Philippines in 1959 to participate. I think I've seen quite a few of this one. I want to say this is the one from 1971 when it was held in Japan. And then this is a patch, a neckerchief, I'm sorry, from World Scouting, which includes different parts of the world there with a world crest. And then a 67 World. So obviously you can kind of see this guy had an interest in World Jamboree. Some of the items I didn't show you off camera were belts from other scout organizations and a few uniform pieces from other scout organizations as well. So, you know, 67 World, and then here's, for example, some other ones here. And then this one is a BSA contingent neckerchief to one of those 1960s or maybe even the 59 World Scout Jamboree. The Boy Scouts use that same logo many, many years on their stuff. And then got some other ones here. I don't see anything else. Then here's a cool one that's actually for a traderee in the 9th annual Amanquasipi Traderee. Can't pronounce these Indian words, even though I've seen a lot of them. 1970. And then here's a Scouts Canada neckerchief as well. Again, just more neckerchiefs. Some of these are the standard BSA ones. So let me move the neckerchiefs, and I've got this pile of patches here in binder pages that I'm trying to keep from spilling onto the ground. So it's a little bit of a juggling act doing these unboxings for you guys, but that's okay. I'm not in a circus, but I can make it work. Okay, so these are kind of the binder pages. And again, if you watch my unboxings, a lot of times what I'll suggest to families is that before they mail items to me, they'll take them out of the 3-ring binder because the binders themselves kind of add some weight and bulk to the box, but keep them in the pages because the pages represent how the collector had them organized. I'll kind of turn these around so they're facing you and not me. Again, what I'm trying to do is share some of the historical items. So if I see something that looks really interesting, now this is kind of different just because these are felt unit numerals for a Cub pack. And so those felt ones are from the late 40s, early 50s, and then some other Cub Scout ones here as well. This is your typical Explorer stuff. None of this stuff is particularly rare. These were worn by Explorer posts as a generic kind of a universal emblem that was worn on a uniform. You would expect to see this. We've always seen all this World Jamboree stuff. My thought is that he probably attended one or more of those World Scout Jamborees. And so there's the patches from other countries, including more there and more here. It's a little harder for me to find a person who's interested in these, but I have some contacts overseas, and sometimes I will reach out to those people and tell them, hey, I have a lot of stuff from Canada. Are you interested? I have a lot of stuff from the UK, and I can rehome these items that way. But there's not so much of a market for these in America. Although, as he discovered, if you were the person that traded for these, then this would have been something that would definitely have meant something to you. He could have shook the hands of all of the people who own these patches or that had them out for trade at one of these events. All right, here's some more Jamboree stuff. So again, here's an 83 World Jamboree patch. And then we see Sosi. Now, this would not surprise me. Scouts on stamps, right? If we see that he had a real interest in collecting stamps, then all of these are the patches from the BSA group, or maybe it's International Scouting Group, Scouts collecting stamps, including from the 15th World Scout Jamboree. Then more patches here, Philmont, some region patches, just sort of like, all of us have seen this where you have 3 different flavors of the historic trails patch, but these were all things that were commonly sold in the scout shop. So nothing too rare here. This is a C&O Canal historic trail. These are the little segments that go around with this. I've had that in several collections. And then, like a lot of collections, in fact, one I just unboxed a few minutes ago had this where you have kind of the rank patches laid out. These are the rank patches from the 1960s. These are going into the 1970s with some Eagle Scout patches, and then more of this sort of modern position patches here. So again, this kind of stuff is the stuff that, a lot of scouts wore. They sold them in the scout shop. And so he just put together a collection of all different position patches for adults and for youth. And so I see that in a lot of collections. In fact, I have a collection of all of these things as well. 1981 Jamboree. My brother went to that Jamboree, so he's got some Jamboree items. And again, come back to the World Jamboree. This is the patch that the scouts that went to the 1971 in Japan wore. And I believe this is the one, the next Jamboree after that, in it's like 75. This is the one that they wore. So those are the patches. There's a little cigar box here that has just the loose pieces, little hat pins, tie tacks, another little tie tack there as well. So just some epaulets, cufflinks, man, even has Sosi cufflinks. So this guy was really, really into that. So, and then got the historical piece I want to show you. And then the last thing, this is a cool one. I don't get this very often. Norman Rockwell's Spirit of Scouting. I'll try to open this up, although I can hear it jingling around a little bit. These are sterling silver coins. I want to say this came out in 1972. And it's a classic set. This one's kind of popped around a little bit. I'll have to kind of get this put back together where all the pieces are not loose. But this is a really nice set. It was a catalog item that BSA Supply sold. It was not cheap. These are sterling silver coins. So even 50 years ago, they weren't cheap. But a lot of scouters did buy this as a cool collectible item. And every once in a while, not very often, will I find this in a collection. So now let me set up the camera, and I want to show you the real historical piece, historical treasure that came in this collection, and the reason why I had these boxes sitting in my office for so long, waiting for me to do a proper unboxing. Okay, I said there was something in this box that was just truly, truly a historic, significant piece of memorabilia. And it's right here. I'm going to show it to you. I've been spending the last 30 minutes flipping through it, reading it. It really is unbelievable. So you can see here, this is a scrapbook. And this first page just has a little cutout, probably from an old scouting magazine, nothing too big. And then here's what this is. It says, Honor Roll of Eagle Scouts. And then you can see here the first picture. Now, those of you who have been in scouting a little while, you might recognize this person, but if you don't, I'll pull it up and you can see the inscription. Dan Beard, the National Commissioner. That is an original picture, and he is awarding the Eagle Badge to the first Eagle Scout in Montgomery, New York, in Orange County Council. Now, this entire scrapbook is the honor roll of Eagle Scouts for Orange County Council in New York. I had to look it up, I'll be honest. It is west of Connecticut, north of New York City, Middletown, the main town there that I could see. I'm not sure, not having done the research yet, what council this would have been a part of. But this scrapbook is literally an unbelievable record in the 1920s, you all, of the Eagles of Orange County Council. Now, this is incredible. My guess is the person who put this together was this gentleman right here, John, I think it's Bright, Middleton, New York, the chairman of the Court of Honor. This is dated January, looks like 1921 or 27, not sure about that. But then check this out. When it says roll of all the Eagle Scouts, holy cow, literally page number, Eagle Scout number one, two, three, four, five, all the way through, all the way through. These are all the Eagle Scouts in the 1920s from this county. And y'all, it keeps going to page two, to page three. It keeps going. There are 166 Eagle Scouts documented in the scrapbook. Now, not all of them have pictures, but literally every page is dedicated to and the Eagle Scouts. Eagle Scout number one, we already saw his picture with Dan Beard. Eagle Scout number two, he snapped a little picture out of maybe the newspaper or a yearbook or something like that. And he tells a little bit of the history, if he knows it, of some of these people. But a lot of them, he has their actual picture. Here's a picture snapped, again, from a magazine or a notebook. But he's got the date that the gentleman got this eagle, and a lot of them have pictures like this, where it's the picture of the actual scout. And as I continue to flip here, you'll see some of them are more of those beautiful portrait style pictures that we see here. So again, and you're also going to see some of these are adults where they got the Eagle rank as an adult, which was perfectly fine back then. He even has some of their biography, including written here that the person is now deceased, and might even mention when they passed away and a little bit of their scouting history. So, I mean, oh my gosh, if this book does not get back to either a historical society in that area or the National Scout Museum, it would be a shame. It's this is kind of when I talk about recycling scout memorabilia, this is really living into that. This is history. 100 years ago, this is the roll call of everyone who earned their Eagle in that county. And I've never seen this type of a book for any council, for any county, for any town. I've never seen something like this before, at least not in my 30 plus years of collecting scouting memorabilia. Something where it's so painstakingly documented all of these men, including to note when they were deceased. I just don't know how this was kept up, if this was something where over decades he somehow kept up with these people and would make notes about whether they were deceased or not. It's just incredible that the person who put this together put so much time and effort into it and has some of these beautiful portrait pictures of these Eagle Scouts. Just a really, really, really neat piece of history. One of the coolest pieces I've ever gotten in the collection, and I just think it's so cool, and I'm glad to be able to share it with you. This is exactly what I'm trying to do with this business, trying to preserve scouting's history so that it can be shared with the next generation. The legacy of these early Eagle Scouts 100 years ago in this county in New York is saved in this book, which is in incredible condition. I mean, the pages, honestly, y'all, are not yellow. And all of this written with kind of a calligraphy pen, really, really, really well done. My memory of speaking to the man who I got this collection from was that this was something that was passed down to his father that kind of, I'm not sure that it was his family that originally did this, but his father was kind of entrusted with this. And then in part of the collection, it was sort of a decision of, do I then pass this on to this stranger on the internet, this Jason Spangler guy, so that he can be the keeper of this and keep it safe. And so I'm really excited to show this to you guys. This is something where maybe I can talk to some people and figure out what the best permanent, really archival home for this scrapbook is. But this is somebody's grandfather. This is somebody's, well, I should say probably great grandfather. But who knows if their family even has a picture of their ancestor in their scout uniform. Who knows if they're even aware that their ancestor was an Eagle Scout and one of the earliest Eagle Scouts in this area. So when I talk about, protecting the legacy of scouting and trying to make sure that it supports the future of our organization, this is the kind of legacy I think that would go a long way. Look at this, a Sea Scout who got it in 1929. You just keep going and going and going. I'm only on page, 85. It just keeps going. I'll skip ahead. You can see the pen changes, again. So the calligraphy pen must have dried up. And so here in these later pages, we have more of a ballpoint pen being used. But again, really nice pictures of all of these Eagle Scouts. I mean, look at that guy right there. He has a turtle neckerchief slide, a big hood on. And again, all of those square merit badges from that time period. So just an incredible book here. He had it numbered all the way through pages up in the 200s. But the last page that has, let's see if I can turn to the last page that has a recorded Eagle Scout. Here in the very end, he's starting. Nope, still has pictures. Okay, this is the last one. So the last recorded Eagle Scout here is 1930 on page 173, and this one right here from, I think I'm reading upside down, but I think it's Spruce Ridge. And again, see the merit badges there, 173. So just an amazing, amazing book. Um, so glad that I got that. Wow. Well, if this unboxing doesn't kind of explain why I do this, and you can obviously see I get a little bit excited when I see some really cool stuff like this, because I've been collecting Scouted memorabilia since I was 14 years old. I've never seen some sort of historical scrapbook like that that really lays it out. The closest I've ever come to is I got an amazing collection one time from a guy who he had gone to the 1929 World Scout Jamboree, and he had 3 scrapbooks full of stuff from the 1929 World Scout Jamboree of everything they did, every bus ticket, every train ticket, all pictures and everything. And that was just really, really cool. So again, really cool item there. I know when I release this unboxing video, I'm going to hear from some people, and I'll definitely have to do my homework to make sure that I can find the right place for this scrapbook to go so that it'll be protected and shared, and so these families can learn of the history of their loved ones who, 100 years ago, were among the pioneers in this program, earning the rank of Eagle. So cool. Jason Spangler, the SanteeSwapper. Go to my website, scoutpatchcollectors.com. If I'm really sharp, I might even take some better pictures of this book and share those on my website. That's actually a really good idea. Maybe I'll try to do that. But anyways, this is what I try to do. Buy collections from scouting families, from scouters, and recycle it back into scouting and preserve the history and make sure that the legacy lives on. Thanks very much for watching.